there's a drop in quantity and quality. For instance, you buy biscuit, you buy spaghetti, you buy noodles, or pasta, and then as though they're like even counting them.
I know.
But yet it's expensive. So how exactly, what is, because now if we talk about how the farmers or the marketers are being, the people are being affected. So how do we then deal with these issues, these price issues? Who is checking? And then someone would ask, where is Standard Organization? Where is NAFDAC in all of this? How do
and where's the price control board?
Where's price control? Yeah.
Where's the price control board? So the thing is, I think that it's about time that we, the people, actually get involved in ensuring that we place a demand, because there's a demand on the supply side when it comes to policy, right? So I want to get value for money. If I go out to buy biscuit, for instance, I mean, one of those biscuits that used to have like 5 pieces inside, right now you have 3 pieces. And then the 3 pieces,
so flat.
Thank you. So the 3 pieces is actually so flat that you're not able to get that satisfaction that you get from. And then mind you, you're even paying higher. Let's even go to the airlines also. You look at some of in the aviation sector, you also look at a situation whereby in the past, you pay 20-something thousand naira, and then you have like 20 kg free luggage, right? Embedded, rather. So now, the price is higher. You don't have your meal served, you know, I mean, the snacks that they give, that they serve. I do not want to.
And they've even reduced the kg to like 7.
Exactly, they reduced the kg. So, my question is like, I mean, the government is seeing all of this. They are not doing anything.
I would start this conversation taking a quote from M.S. Swaminathan, who is an Indian agronomist, agricultural scientist, and plant genetist. He is also an administrator and humanitarian. He once said, agriculture can trigger job-led economic growth, provided it becomes intellectually satisfying and economically rewarding. All right, so we'll take our next one, and this one is from Victor Hugo, who is a French romantic writer and politician. He once said, all the human and animal manure which the world wastes, if returned to the land, instead of being thrown into the sea, would suffice to nourish the world. Absolutely spot on. Our last quote is from Ronald Wilson Reagan, an American politician who served as the 40th president of the United States from 1981 to 1989. He once said, government's view of the economy could be summed up in a few short phrases. If it moves, tax it. If it keeps moving, regulate it. And if it stops moving, subsidize it. Oh, wow. Very warm greetings and welcome to The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabel Orji. Now, as demand for food is growing, the supply side faces the challenges of changing environmental and climatic conditions, dwindling water supply, shortage of arable land, farming inputs, and all of this with also the rapid rate of urbanization that's reducing available land for agriculture, and a host of other hitches keeps surging. To mitigate these challenges, farmers must continue to innovate and embrace technologies to improve productivity so as to meet domestic and external demand. Hence, the need for transformation to digital or smart agriculture. Digital agriculture refers to practices that digitally collect, store, analyze, and share electronic data and information along the agricultural value chain. It is the use of digital technologies integrated into one system to enable farmers and other stakeholders to improve agricultural production from farm to the consumer. Digital technologies can be part of the solution to food insufficiency or scarcity because they have the potential to provide farmers with the information and ability to address challenges and witness opportunities for growth. You want to know why and how? Then, my guest on the show today, a Comfort Onyaga. She is the founder of CLICE Foundation and Izanu Africa. She will be in the best position to answer all of your questions. This is The Conversation, and I will see you shortly. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television here in the nation's capital, Abuja. You've actually missed out on the whole lot, but then you can still join in the next segment of the show. Our guest on the show today is Comfort Onyaga. She is the founder of Izanu Africa. It's great to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, now let's start by breaking the ice. Let's talk about CLICE Foundation and Izanu Africa, which you are the founder. And what exactly are the core mandates? What are your objectives? What aim do you seek? And because what problems exactly are you trying to solve for Africa? Because why I ask this question is, if I put myself in the shoes of a layman and I go through your website to find out what it is, what CLICE and Izanu Africa is all about, I just need one thing, one take home, that immediately I see it, I know this is what they're all about.
Okay, so I would start with CLICE Foundation because it precedes Izanu Africa. So CLICE Foundation primarily has the objective of enhancing the livelihood of the people, while Izanu Africa is out to mitigate or build resilience, right, amongst people, especially those in rural communities, build a resilience against the impact of climate change on their livelihood. Okay. So why CLICE Foundation is a non-profit, Izanu Africa is a private company.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Okay, so what problem do you aim to seek or solve for Africans generally?
So first of all, we're looking at food security. So in terms of food security, we are all aware that climate change is a thing. It's no longer a myth. A lot of people perceive it before as a myth, but then it's a reality with the worst flood hitting us last year. So for the challenges around food security, so we look at the farmers who are faced with both agricultural and climate risks, and then we do an assessment of the kind of risks they are exposed to depending on the agri-ecological zone or location. Let me say the region, okay, you know, to use a layman word, right, where they are carrying out their farming activities. And then we are able to provide context-specific agricultural insurance to mitigate the impact of climate change or any other agricultural perils on their crop. Okay. Or livestock. It could be goods in transit. We work across the agricultural value chain because if you look at food security and the ecosystem, we have key players across different segments of the agricultural value chain, and then we want to ensure that everyone is covered. And I mean, leaving no one behind really in the scheme of things, because number one, if you look at the players from seed, because we talk about food security, we start from the seed, from seed to the farm, then to market. So at that preliminary level, we have solutions that, you know, protect the farmers in the event that they do not have sufficient rainfall, which is drought, or excess rainfall in the first production cycle, like the first 21 days, you know, after cultivating their crop. In the event that they suffer losses, so there are solutions that are able to, you know, help them absorb the shocks really of the losses that are incurred, so that within that production cycle, because you know that agriculture and food production is seasonal and it's beyond control, they are still able to go back and cultivate. So that way we are guaranteeing food security, and we're also, you know, reducing the impact of that climate incident, right, on the farmers. Okay. Yeah, regardless of whether they're smallholder farmers or large-scale farmers, because one thing I tell people is that food security is like hunger. It knows no, climate change, like hunger, knows no class, race, or, you know, status really. So a lot of people think this solution should be tailored for smallholder farmers only. But if you look at the large-scale farmers, you realize that in the grand scheme of things, they also have people who work with them. Beside that, a lot of them rely on the financial institution to take up loan in order to cultivate, the large crop, volume of crop or food that we eat. But then, what stops them from being, protected against those losses or the impact of those losses? I mean, because we need to build the shock for them to bounce back. So imagine that with the flood that happened last year, we have large-scale farmers, just like smallholder farmers, they were affected. And then that large-scale farmer, went on to take up loan in order to cultivate crop. The person is not immune against that flood, right? So with our solution, in the event that such incidents occur, you're able to get payout in order to enable you to go back to produce in the following planting season. So imagine that the people who were affected by the flood last year were not protected against that. And then now, what happens this year? It means that we're going to fall short of the volume of expected food because not all the farmers will be able to go back and cultivate. A couple of them must have taken out loan to, cultivate the crop that they planted last year with the hope that they will sell, pay out their loan and meet their personal needs. But then the flood has happened. There is no protection against that. So how do you expect such person to go back and cultivate? So it's going to be minus in terms of food supplies in the country. And I mean, and globally too, because with the Ukraine war and all of that, there's so much demand on the supply chain. There's so much pressure. So how do we even meet our own immediate need as a nation? How much more, exporting through the commodity exchange platforms and all of that, either for primary consumption or secondary production, which is value addition,
Well, you've actually made a lot of salient points that we're going to definitely draw out as we go on in the conversation. But now let's analyze the Nigeria's political space with all that happened during the elections, because I know that you also have a forte around politics. So now, how do you actually, looking at the fact that in May 29th, 2023, we should be looking at the transition, that if all legal, if, like they say, all things being equal. Now, if everything happens smoothly, what expectations are you looking forward to, especially for businesses, for SMEs, MSMEs, smallholder farmers, the big farmers? And in terms of ease of doing business, how optimistic are you?
Well, it's gloomy really because there hasn't been a significant progression from where we were as of 2022, where on a scale of 10, we were at 5.45% on that scale of ease of doing business. So, and then we've moved a little notch above that to 5.69 in the first quarter of this year. And so the question now is, so with the transition, I mean, however it turns out, I mean, no one knows right now as it is. It's just a matter of, okay, let's see what happens. Let the May 29 comes and let's see what happens. So the ease of doing business really, if you want to look at it holistically, using the different parameters, I am forced to actually say that it is on paper because, I mean, I'm doing business myself, right? So for instance, a couple of weeks ago, I went to file FIRS, our annual returns and all of that. So one would expect that, at least for my level of digital literacy and the adoption of technology with the whole role that NIDA is playing in the technological space, one would hope that the process would have been optimized to the level where I would sit from the comfort of my home, to do my filing myself. I don't necessarily have to go to the FIRS to fill forms. So for instance, I had this personal experience where I had to retype the questionnaire that was given to me and fill out the answer, right? So what stops such regulatory institution, from having that kind of questionnaire on their platform online, such that all I need to do is to sign up, create a page for me, and I fill it directly on the platform, right? I mean, so, but beyond that, beyond the regulatory side of things, and let's say access to internet, because for me, I rely heavily on technology since I'm a startup, right? And I'm leveraging technology. So look at down the lower cadre, the micro and medium scale business owners. So I know that registration is easy now, business registration, but aside business registration, what about all those incidents of taxes, the cost of even transportation, petrol, it has ripple effect. So much so that if care is not taken, a lot of people will go out of business, and that's the means of their livelihood. You understand? Currently, as it stands, we have over 39 million MSMEs in Nigeria, and over 60%, 67% of them is youth-owned. Yeah, they are owned by youth. So if you look at the entire business ecosystem in Nigeria, a lot of young people today want to go into doing business, leveraging technology, and then there is already the fear just before May 29. There's already the atmosphere. There's a way it is right now. Like young people are scared. There's tension, and then for personally, I feel like there's already that sense of cyber policing. Yeah, really, I feel that already. So much so that you don't even know if, because I am in a democratic society where I have the freedom of speech to air my opinion, to express myself about an issue, I don't know if my business will be haunted. You understand? That's the aspect of cyber policing I'm talking about. So it puts fear, and I'm having that sense of a militarization.
Wow.
Yeah. It feels like a military regime already.
Wow.
In a democratic dispensation. So I have friends also that I have conversation with who are also doing business. They're also scared. A lot of people are beginning to now withdraw from the cyberspace. So if it is not safe for me to do business, because I'm scared of who would, haunt my business tomorrow. I mean, so what are we talking about in terms of ease of doing business when majority of the business owners are young people and majority of them want to leverage technology, are tech savvy. And then beyond that, the ripple impact is foreign direct investment. If investors coming into the country, have that perceived feeling about the atmosphere already, and then young people are withdrawing, or, I mean, it's going to stifle growth in terms of our GDP as well, because as it stands now, the MSMEs contribute, over 40% to our GDP. So imagine that bulk of the population of that MSMEs owners, withdraw. Or now take the alternative route of leaving the country. So what happens? It's going to cripple our nation. Look at unemployment rate already. What the report from KPMG, like over 40%. It's alarming, really. So if young people are not being absorbed currently by the corporate world, the alternative means of livelihood for them is doing business. And if the business atmosphere is not conducive enough for them to do business, I really do not know where we're going to as a nation, because cybercrime would actually increase social vices as well. So it's a pathetic one right now,
wow.
seriously.
It's really sad. So then
Yeah.
how then do we create the healthy, competitive environment for ease of doing business, even with this surging, like you talked about the cyberspace and the tension, and then you also have surge in insecurity, you also have snowballing effect, you have electricity challenges where people have to even provide their own electricity and all of that. You have price of fuel hike and quite a number of issues. And then you also talked about the supply chain and FX and all of that difficulty, even structural difficulties. Now, in all of this, just to mention a few, how then do we deal? Especially for that new business, even for prospective businesses.
So I would actually say prioritization, really, because Okay, let me do this analysis now, right? I'm doing this from my background as a political science student, right? So as a society, we have the superstructure and the substructure. So the substructure is the economy and is the base, like is the pillar, you know, the foundation. And then we have the substructure, which is politics, governance, you know, regulations and all of that. So if the base is not strong, if the foundation is not strong, if it is weak, really, things will go wrong. And then, so it behoves the superstructure, right, to create that enabling environment. So, and then, you know, I would suggest a multi-sectorial approach, one that is inclusive enough to capture not just people across sectors, I mean, in terms of business, right? Also, including people at the bottom of the pyramid, because let's take the agricultural sector as an example. You look at the agricultural sector, agriculture contributes over 20% of our GDP, and then people at the bulk of the producers are the smallholder farmers. So imagine that whatever policy that is being put in place does not take into consideration the context of the people of those at the bottom of the pyramid. Let's take the financial institution and this agricultural sector. So you look at today as it is, farmers are not able to take loan because of the multiple digits, you know, interest rate. And then what do you think will be the impact in terms of even the people at the top of the pyramid will be affected because the cost of food would be high, right? And if you look at infrastructure, those at the top of the pyramid and the middle, they are the ones who would always rely on going to commodity trading and all of that, aggregating food in bulk from the people at the bottom of the pyramid. So this is why I say it takes multi-sectorial, because now, just by this analogy, I've mentioned the financial institution, I've mentioned
agriculture.
Yeah, the commodity exchange traders, the transportation is also part of it, and then the people, the farmers themselves, they are part of it. So if we have the Nigerian government prioritizing the Maputo Declaration, that, I mean, there was an agreement, right, that XYZ amount should be budgeted by every nation to, I mean, the countries, right, to agriculture, food production. And then you look at what the budget is like today. Where do we really want to go to? Then if you go to education sector, if you go to other sector, because education, we have private sector players. I do not want to, you know, stick to the sentiment of the industry that I play in. If you go to the educational sector and even the health sectors, we have private sector players, and then we have them at different levels, both small, medium, and large scale. So what's the existing policy? What is the political will of our leaders to implement those policies that are already in place? Nigeria is the country that has one of the best policies across board, across sector. So it has to do basically with policy implementation, I would say. Oh, wow. Yeah.
All right then. So now on the other hand, we already know that the streets are not smiling, the markets are not smiling, and then even the household are not even smiling at all. But then you have, we've noticed this increase in prices, but then there's no increase in, there's a drop in quantity and quality. For instance, you buy biscuit, you buy spaghetti, you buy noodles, or pasta, and then as though they're like even counting them.
I know.
But yet it's expensive. So how exactly, what is, because now if we talk about how the farmers or the marketers are being, the people are being affected. So how do we then deal with these issues, these price issues? Who is checking? And then someone would ask, where is Standard Organization? Where is NAFDAC in all of this? How do
where
we
is
deal?
the price control board?
Where's price control? Yeah.
Where's the price control board? So the thing is, I think that it's about time that we, the people, actually get involved in ensuring that we place a demand, because there's a demand on the supply side when it comes to policy, right? So I want to get value for money. If I go out to buy biscuit, for instance, I mean, one of those biscuits that used to have like 5 pieces inside, right now you have 3 pieces. And then the 3 pieces. So flat. Thank you. So the 3 pieces is actually so flat that you're not able to get that satisfaction that you get from. And then mind you, you're even paying higher. Let's even go to the airlines also. You look at some of in the aviation sector. You also look at a situation whereby in the past, you pay 20-something thousand naira, and then you have like 20 kg free luggage, right? Embedded, rather. So now, the price is higher. You don't have your meal served, you know, I mean, the snacks that they give, that they serve. I do not want to.
And they've even reduced the kg to like 7.
Exactly, they reduced the kg. So, my question is like, I mean, the government is seeing all of this. They are not doing anything about it. So it means, because we are in a democratic dispensation, right? So for me, I would say that it's about time we the people, because it's government for the people, right? By the people. So it's time for us to rise up and take action and say, you know what, we no go agree.
Oh, so like, are you saying both buyers, sellers, customers?
Yeah, we need to
everyone
rise up against this, really. We need to speak up against this. Like, we need to put demand pressure on the government, you know, to do this, because otherwise the change that we want to see would not happen. I mean, those in power, in the corridors of power, they have the financial resources to afford all of these, right? They don't feel the impact as much as some of us feel it. Like, so it's left for, it reminds me of Karl Marx, really. I mean, maybe it's time for that revolution to happen, where the masses would rise up and say, you know what, enough is enough. We've had it up to our neck. We need change. Like, we want to get value for money. I want to get value for time. I mean, look at it. Salaries are not increasing even, but I'm expected to pay. Look at the Minister of Finance making recommendation that the VAT should increase. Really? Where should we get that money from? And the country is not even prioritizing. How on earth would Nigeria government, you know, take a loan of $800 million to distribute as, I mean, a social, like a palliative? It doesn't make sense. How is that going to, in the next 1 year, in the next 2 years, contribute to poverty reduction? Meanwhile, if you calculate it by the number of expected beneficiary for that particular intervention, I mean, how much is it? Like 7,000 plus? So to what extent, how far would that go? How would it contribute to that person being able to pay their house rent? Electricity tariff is high. How would they be able to pay for that? How would they be able to pay transportation to even take their goods from their homes to go to the market and sell? How would that help them to pay school fees? Because, I mean, the private sector where we rely on for quality education, tuition is not cheap. How would a poor household, you know, I mean, it doesn't translate to mean any sustainable solution to the problems that we are in right now, really. I think I would use this opportunity to say there is need for a review of that decision or the plan. You know, there is need for reprioritization so that Nigerians would also, I mean, we should hold the government accountable and say, hey, no, you need to be able to show us the value for the money, for that loan you're taking, and how much impact it's going to, I mean, demonstrate it. Let's look at it and see how it will translate to changing the economic hardship and the realities of the people as we are currently. In the next 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, what difference would that $800 million, you know, make in the life of an average Nigeria?
I couldn't agree less with you. All right, now let's talk about, because you talked about, we'll be talking about how much Nigerians are suffering with policies and taxations and all. Now, I recall the Nigeria Startup Act that was signed into law by President Muhammadu Buhari just recently. In that regard, I still hear technopreneurs, entrepreneurs still talk about the Startup Act like there's nothing going on at the moment. So what exactly do you think is going on? Do you see any ray of light when you get the new administration, or do the proponents, because I remember the joy that came up with when it was signed into law, it was everywhere. So do the proponents of that act need to go back again and do some more advocacy, or just sit back and relax?
No, there's progress actually. So was it last week or 2 weeks ago? It's not even up to 3 weeks really. I read this article on LinkedIn where the current administration has constituted some, there are a group of people that have been put in place to, you know, ensure that, to see to the implementation of what the act contains, really. So for that, I am hopeful, I personally am hopeful that the committee that has been set up would actually get to work. So it's also left for us to look at it and say, okay, you know what are the KPIs? What do we want to achieve in the next 5 years within the startup ecosystem? And then how do even startups in themselves, you know, hold these people accountable and ensure that whatever investment that goes into that ecosystem, we are able to get value for money in terms of impact and, you know, even ease of doing business and, you know, whatever comfort it will bring to the startups, yeah.
All right, clearly there's so much to unbundle in this conversation with Comfort Onyaga, founder Izanu Africa, and we will definitely get right to it after this time out. Please join us again. How much does climate change, be it in the extreme or in the moderation, does actually affect agri-technology?
So the thing is, without food production, there's no agri-technology really, because, I mean, technology comes in different dimensions, right, depending on the segment of the agricultural value chain that you're playing in, whether you're in crop production, livestock production, or the supply chain, transportation of food, of the food. Like, it's 101% really, because if you look at the primary production, if the farmers cultivate, and you need technology to even disseminate information to tell them, starting with the simple GSM technology, to tell them the weather condition. Okay, go and plant now. The weather's, this is what NIMET is saying, and that information is distributed. That's agri-technology for you. Agri-technology is not just about digitalization at the most sophisticated level. Okay. Then, in terms of information dissemination, is agri-technology. Beyond
so it can
that,
just be smart agriculture. It doesn't have to be digital. Welcome back. If you just joined us, this is The Conversation. We're reaching you from KAFTAN's television studio here in the nation's capital, Abuja. I told you if you just joined us, you've actually missed out on a whole lot, but then you can still join in the conversation. Our guest on the show is Comfort Onyaga, and she is the founder of Izanu Africa. All right, before we went on that to break, we actually touched on a lot of things, but now let's move to agriculture and technology. And before now, we all know planting of crops and rearing of animals and all of that, but thanks to the emergence of science and technology, I hear you call it food production. So it's no longer like farming or agriculture; it's now food production and all. So and then now where you have most people where they don't actually need land being the primary inputs for food sufficiency. All they just need is technology, where I've seen some people now do soilless farming, vertical farming, virtual farming, and all of that, and even grow bags. So now in all of this, now and then I've actually seen where you have hybrid seedlings that they are genetically modified organisms, where they've gone to the lab, they've been well tested, so now they are drought, pesticide, insecticide resistant. So in all of this, how far have we been able to close the gaps with agriculture and technology?
Okay, so I would like to say that this actually makes agriculture I mean, it's a platform. All of these innovations, right, has been able to bridge that intergenerational gap in food production, really, because 5 years ago, young people like me would not necessarily like to venture into agriculture, food production, and all of that, or farming, really. But thanks to technology today, you see more and more young people like myself getting into the agricultural sector, because it also presents opportunities. So what I would like to say about this is, for Nigeria as it is, we are growing, and I believe that we would get there, because, but the only gap that I see there is the people, still the people at the bottom of the pyramid who are not digitally literate and who are not also open to innovation enough to embrace all of this, because again, is a shift. It's actually a watershed moment in the agricultural sector, because in the past, it's hoe, knife, you go to the farm, you have your yam barn. Yeah, the farmers, our grandparents, have would harvest, preserve the seed and replant, but it's no longer business as usual in that space. And this is also an effort to address the issue of food security. And so that even if you, I mean, everyone is conversant with our land tenure system as it is right now. So look at the land tenure system around the whole thing around women ownership of land, yet women are more into food production at the bottom of the pyramid within the rural cluster. And then with technology in place and the new farming system, the verticals and all of that, you realize that this innovation makes it easy for inclusivity, so that both young people and the older generation are able to now contribute to food production. We may not have gotten advanced and sophisticated like other climes, but the truth is that we have made significant progress from where we were at in the last 5 years, with the whole, like you rightly said, seedling production, hydroponic system, the soilless farms and all of that. And it's really contributing to bridging that gap in the food supply chain, system, because again, let's take for instance, during the EndSARS and the pandemic, imagine that with the whole, what's it called, lockdown, people are not able to go down to, like aggregators, they're not able to travel miles down to offtake food, to bring to the cities and all of that. It means that household can also go into food production, because it also even contributes to environmental management, because now you see where people with nylons, waste, they can recycle their plastic buckets, and all of that for home gardening. So meaning, I mean, it's like Operation Feed Yourself, right? But then beyond that, going to the commercial level, because people need to earn money.
Exactly.
And you cannot even produce, it's difficult to have a household produce everything that they can eat.
Yes.
Yeah, so if I'm doing this and all my focus is pepper and tomatoes at the back of my house, for instance, I still need yam, I still need potatoes, I still need other stuff, yeah. So, but then where technology also comes in is how this technology, beyond this innovation and around the cultivation process in itself, of the technology around the supply chain management, wherein one is able to get food supply from a different location, because they are not even able to produce within the confines of their environment, what all the things that they need. I mean, Nigeria is actually trying. I give it to us. So we are not just trying because our government is supporting us, mind you, because again, if you go back to our budget is not even sufficient enough to bridge that gap. But thanks to foreign direct investment, thanks to our youth who are researching and trying to apply those knowledge in ensuring that we adopt and we adapt, to suit our environment, right? Because again, one thing is technological transfer or transfer of innovation. Another thing is adaptability for suitability within the environment that you find yourself and that you're working in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So now I hear you talk about the smallholder farmers, the ones in the rural areas and all of that. Now I also recall you talked about the flood that we envisaged last year, late last year, that actually brought a lot of destruction especially for farmers. Now with all of that, aside from the insecurity that farmers have to battle with, where they complain that they have to pay bandits before they can even go to their farms and all of that, then with even that, we still have to talk about the desertification, climate change. You talked about climate change. I recall you talked about climate change, and then with that rain and all, and then we're still dependent on rain-fed agriculture. It's either it is too much or it is too little, and all of that. So now, how do we bring in, I recall those farmers at that time when they were complaining that they took loans, and then in fact, some said they were going to even sue the federal government for all that happened, because we had prior information that it was going to happen. So now that I saw a particular report from NIMET saying that 2023 rainfall flood is going to be worse, so we should prepare for worse. Even IMF even said the same thing. So how do we begin to cushion that effect so it doesn't hit us right at the face, and then that's when we begin to look for solutions?
The thing is this, it's about responsible government, really. So if with this, I mean, I've not seen anywhere, I don't know if you have, where the government has come out to say, okay, you know what, with this information, these are the actions we want to take. Let's call the Farmers Association together. Let's brainstorm, let's have meetings to see how we can mitigate this on the food production in the next planting season. Let's take action, let's build dams, let's do this, let's do, like, I don't know why the government is sleeping on this, really, because again, the same government are humans, they still need food. The same government, except if the government, I'm putting it on the government because they have a very huge role to play, but at the same time, another question is on the flip side of it, where we have the farmers themselves, who are the most impacted, you know, and worst hit by this climate crisis, right? The question also is, what actions are they taking really that are contributing to this huge impact of climate change, you know, on their farms? Because while I'm waiting, or I'm hoping that the government will take action to mitigate this, another thing again is, we talk about climate adaptation. So what adaptation practices are the farmers adopting in order to ensure that their resilience are built, you know, again, because no matter how best your inputs are, when the flood comes, it will wipe it away. It's not the flood, your best input is not going to immunize you against the impact of climate change, no. So the only thing we have as a result, really, and which is not going to address the problem of food shortage, is in the immediate, really, and even in the long run, is actually agri insurance. Why? Because, I mean, while it's in reality, everybody agrees that using the best or the most innovative technology to grow your crop would not stop you from feeling the impact of climate change, like flood, right? But with agri insurance, you're able to get payouts in the event that this crisis occurs. You're able to get something back. So for instance, it costs you 100 naira to cultivate your crop, and then you pay, say, 5% for agri insurance. And then this climate change crisis occur, like excess rainfall, flood. At the end of that incident, you're going to get back more than 50%, depending on the stage at your crop was, or your livestock, because there is for livestock as well. You know, and then you get something, meaning in the following year, because these are predictions, right? You don't know what the next prediction would be. In the following year, if you have a window to go back and cultivate, it means that you can still go back and plant, and then we have food to eat. But beside that, my own emphasis now is, what actions, what is the government doing really to say, okay, you know what, let's move into the community, let's build XYZ infrastructure to reduce the impact of that flooding, so that this state or this agri-ecological location where we have enough food, you know, being cultivated that would reach, you know, other parts of the nation, would not be so affected that we will not have food supply for the next season. what is even the farmer doing? Like the farmers themselves, you know, there's already deforestation within these communities, and where you see they cut down trees to, you know, to cook and all of that.
Firewood.
Firewood, yes. They need to change all of that because it's also contributing to it.
Oh, wow.
Look at the Cameroon dam incident too. If there's already the fund, if the fund is already there for the government to build some infrastructure in order to reduce and to cushion that, why is the government not doing it now? That, I mean, these early rains. So my expectation would have been that lessons from the flood last year, the government would have started taking action towards the end of last year when there was no rain. I mean, the dry season, right? Start putting things in place to checkmate all of that.
And to think
so
that we even have provisions for ecological fund.
Exactly, provision. What are they doing with the ecological fund? I mean, this is where the civil society organization should also come in and start advocating and demand accountability on the government to say, hey, government, it's time to take action. I mean, look at SDG 13, climate action now. So it's everybody has a role to play, really. It's a holistic, like all hands has to be on deck for us to address this. It's, in as much as I'm putting it on the government, we also have a role to play. The civil society, even the media. What is media reporting? Is the media putting this at the forefront? I'm glad that we're having the conversation here, but what about the other media? Are they putting it at the forefront to make it a priority and an emergency issue so that the government will take action now? I mean, if civil society organizations are constrained by funding, I mean, so maybe the people should arise also and say, okay, you know what, government, maybe at the local government level too, so that the demand, when the pressure gets worse, right, worse, or when the pressure is much from the bottom, which is the local government, it begins to move, you know.
The center.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, how much does climate change, be it in the extreme or in the moderation, does actually affect agri-technology?
So the thing is, without food production, there is no agri-technology really, because, I mean, technology comes in different dimensions, right, depending on the segment of the agricultural value chain that you're playing in. Whether you're in crop production, livestock production, or the supply chain, transportation of food, of the food. Like, it's 101% really, because if you look at the primary production, if the farmers cultivate, and you need technology to even disseminate information to tell them, starting with the simple GSM technology, to tell them the weather condition. Okay, go and plant now. The weather's, this is what NIMET is saying, and that information is distributed. That's agri-technology for you. Agri-technology is not just about digitalization at the most sophisticated level.
Okay.
Then, in terms of information dissemination, is agri-technology. Beyond
it can
that,
just be smart agriculture. It doesn't have to be digital.
Yeah, okay. Even if it is smart agriculture, really, if you look at the people who have greenhouses, if there is heavy flood, it will be affected. So what are we talking about? If you're doing soilless, except you want to go and plant in the air, above where the rain will not get to it, I don't know if there's any technology like that yet. But even if you're doing hydroponics or whatever form of smart farming you're doing, you will still be affected by climate change. That's it, depending on the adversity of that climate change, whether it's excess rainfall or drought. I mean, if people need water, if there's drought.
All right, now, so judging from the fact that after that flood last year, you had farmers who had said they were going to sue the federal government, saying that they took up loans, even the Anchor Borrowers program and all of that. And then you had CBN coming out to say that some of the farmers had eloped with the loans that they took up and all of that. Then you have farmers saying they were going to sue the federal government because there was a forewarning before all of that. And then they talked about the ecological fund and everything that happened, but yet they were not able to cushion that effect on their behalf. Now, do those farmers have any reason to scream, be it the smallholder farmer, the large-scale farmer, wherever they are? Do they have any reason to scream? And if eventually, or if this kind of happening, what happened last year, if it happens again this year, do they have any reason to scream again?
Now, which people?
Now
Okay,
the farmers.
yeah. So now it's actually funny that first of all, the federal government would blame the farmer for not even paying back the loan off, or say that they eloped. Like, this is flood that displaced people from their homes. So how can you not sympathize with these people and say that they eloped? That's the first question. It's ridiculous, really. Then now, this is why I would always say that the government, so if there was an ecological fund and the government was supposed to put certain measures in place to cushion or mitigate that incident from affecting the farmers in the manner or to the extent that the farmers were affected. So, I mean, if the government did what they were supposed to do, so it's just like, water is supposed to, there is rain, water is supposed to be entering this house because I have my property here and the owners of the properties are the farmers. And then the government has given me money as a loan to go get this property and live in this place. And the same government has resources to build barricades to ensure that that flood does not get into this house so that my properties will not be destroyed. The government did not do that. It's an ABC thing. The government did not do their own part to ensure that the flood did not get into the building. And then the flood gets in and displaces me and messes up the property, and I look for a place of safety to put my head, at least for my survivor. Then the government now blames me, or the government is saying that I eloped. Like,
sometimes, like you said, that it's an ABC thing. So sometimes the government might also put the blame that, but some of these people also block the drainages. They throw things inside the drainages, which also affect.
Yeah, I understand that. And which is why earlier on I said, on the flip side is the farmer. What role is the farmer playing? Or how is the farmer contributing to that, right? But in this case, clearly, it was beyond the blockage. Like, I mean, the Cameroon, the overflow, how is it the blockage? Do you understand? It's not as much as it is the fault of the farmer, like as it is, you know, it's the fault of the government, really. Because again, and this is where the issue of policy implementation comes in. So, if the government was responsible enough to enforce some environmental regulations, right, or policy within rural communities and even suburb and the urban metropolis, so and say, okay, you know, I mean, when I was growing up, when I was with my late grandmom, I remember how, and it still happens in Lagos State, environmental day, sanitation,
Saturday morning. When they catch you, they take you straight to court.
Why is the government not doing that? Since the people have not been able to or cannot discipline themselves to the extent where they will not be responsible, like, so the government should enforce those policy. So when you talk about policy implementation, it's not only the implementation of policy that has to do with government giving people freebies. It's also enforcing and ensuring that they instill discipline on the people. It's just like how if you don't file your annual returns to CAC or FIRS, you get penalized. So companies are always on their toes. So what if government now puts penalties as a measure, you know, to enforce the existing policy in terms of waste disposal and waste management? What stops the government from doing that? And now we are even in an era where we're talking about upcycling and recycling. We're talking about waste wealth. Why can't we have the government think and work with the private sector to put infrastructure in place wherein these wastes that are generated within the rural communities are actually collected and upcycled or recycled to even add value? Do you understand? So the thing is, for me, I would say that the government has no right actually to say the people elope. But and at the same time, the government should be sympathizing, because I mean, these are people that lost their livelihood and even where they put their head, they lay their head. Some of them lost their loved ones. So they were that affected. So it's not a deliberate thing on the part of the farmers to say, we would not pay this loan. Prior to this flood, okay, let's review before the incident of the flood, were the farmers paying their loan? If the flood did not happen, the government should be thinking, would they have paid the loan? So it's an issue of natural disaster that is beyond anyone's control, even though measures would have been put in place to checkmate that.
All right, then as we begin to round up, I've heard you make statements with regards to insuring farmlands and farm produce. Now, what are the benefits of insuring farmlands and farm produce, and why should a Nigerian farmer, especially those smallholder farmers in the villages, why should they pay extra cost to insure their farmlands, to insure their farm produce?
So I would say this, see, the benefits of agri insurance cannot be overemphasized, really, and that's what we're doing right now, you know, to ensure that, first of all, the thing is, I know that farmers have been beaten in the past because of, I mean, their past experiences. Even average Nigerian, aside from agricultural insurance, they are not interested in insurance because of the problems around the insurance industry. So why farmers should pay? For me, right, I'm on the journey to ensuring that farmers see agri insurance as the #1 crop protection policy input. Farmers have other crop protection inputs. The reasons farmers would pay extra money to buy a drought resilient or climate smart seedling is the same reason farmers should actually pay for insurance, and more, because #1, if I'm telling you that out of your 100 naira that constitutes your total cost of production, which we call economics of production, you're to pay 3% or 5%. So in the event that there is drought or flood, you will get about, depending on the level your crop is at or was at when such incidents occur, you can get up to 80% of that your 100,000 naira, or of your 100 naira. I mean, does it not make sense, really? But again, that is also subject to the kind of insurance company they're dealing with, because a lot of people, a lot of insurance companies out there do not want to pay claims, really. I can say that boldly. They're kind of evasive about it, and then because of the kind of interventions that we have in the country today, and even the federal government intervention, first of all, from the onset, the farmers do not even understand the kind of agricultural insurance policy that is on their crop or their livestock. So agricultural insurance policy varies. There's the seed replacement, there's the hybrid, the multi-peril, there's the hybrid. There are different kinds of policies, just like you walk into an ice cream shop, you want to buy ice cream and you're asking for different menu. So it's value for money. So if the farmers are made to understand, this is the policy you're getting, and this is what will happen. If XYZ happen, this is what we would do. That transparency is not there. Once the transparency is there, the truth is that the farmers will actually be the one looking for agri insurance. But in the event that they don't even know what they are paying for, it is embedded with the input as they're buying it, and they don't know if they are paying for multi-peril, they don't know if they are paying for hybrid, they don't know if they are paying for only the first 21 days. And then at the end of the planting season, something happened just like the flood, and they don't get paid out. Farmers will not trust it. But when they begin to see that value for money, that, okay, I paid for this, this is what I'm going to get, definitely everybody would actually want to
jump on the train.
I tell you, that same last day, we were at Jigawa, we spoke to farmers. Guess what? 3 weeks after that trip to Jigawa, that was when the flood happened. At the end of the same farmers were calling us at Izanu, and they were saying that, hey, if we had known, we would have paid this thing. Even if we got only 20% or 50%. Do you understand? So now, why did the farmer have to wait for that incident to happen for them to now know that?
Isn't it just typical of us Nigerians?
Exactly. Exactly. So this is why farmers, because it will protect their livelihood. The people who were displaced and they are, you know, at loggerhead with the federal government, they would not be where they are right now, because at the end of the day, there is that guarantee that that particular insurance policy, depending on the type, farmers should be wary of the type of agricultural insurance policy.
So you must always ask questions.
You should ask questions.
Okay.
Yeah, you should ask questions. And that's what we are trying to use technology. We are using technology to bridge. You don't need to walk into a traditional insurance company where they give you 20 pages document. What is in that document? Why is it that it is only when something happens and you're asking the insurance company to come and pay you? That's when your eyes are open and they're telling you that this is what you pay for, this is not what you pay for, this is what we'll give you. Why didn't they tell you from the beginning? So, I mean, there's a whole lot of benefit that comes with insurance, not just for crop only, even for goods in transit. Moving the product from the farmhouse to the market, the goods is exposed to risks. Moving the fertilizer from the warehouse to the community where the farmers are, the goods are risks. The farm equipment in the farm, now with the whole issue of mechanization, people have farm equipment, farmers take loan to get those farm equipment. Why can't they insure it in the event that the equipment breaks down? Insurance is actually warranty, really.
So it's all inclusive.
It's all inclusive. So they're just, you see how, why is it that you as a person, you walk into a gadget store and then you see all of these electronic gadgets, you see 1 year warranty, and then you see another one without warranty. Which would you go for? You would go for the one with the warranty. Exactly. That's what insurance is to farmers. But they don't understand it to that extent. Yeah, but so this is why they should, because there's value for money. If anything goes back within the terms of that warranty product, you know, you have your crop, you know, replacement or any sort of compensation that is within the confines of the policy that you paid for.
All right, since our time is fast spent, but before we let you go, I'd like you to speak to that farmer who could be watching us right now at the moment, whether in the village or in the city, wherever you are. Why? Give them 2 reasons, very good, salient reasons, why you should get up now and go insure your farm.
Okay, number 1, climate is real. Climate change is real. Another flood might happen. NIMET have said it. The World Bank has said it. Like, so it is your responsibility to protect yourself against the losses that you may suffer, because if another flood happens, you will go hungry, you will lose your livelihood. The loan that you have taken to cultivate that crop would all go. You have to sweat in order to pay back that loan. So this is why you should get insurance. Number 2, I mean, you're contributing to food security for Nigeria. So we need to be able to get you back to the farm in order to produce in the next production cycle so that you will eat and then all of us in Nigeria will not go hungry. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your time with us. What a fine way to end this conversation. It's been a wonderful time having this conversation with you, Comfort.
Thank you for having me.
All right, viewers, that's where we end this segment of the show. We have been chatting with Comfort Onyaga. She is the founder of CLICE Foundation and Izanu Africa. And it's been a wonderful time here on The Conversation. I'm sure you must have been rightly educated, entertained, and also informed. I will see you next time. Keep watching The Conversation, because you never know what I will be speaking about next or who I will be chatting with. So I come your way again from the nation's capital, Abuja. I am Annabel Orji. God bless Nigeria.